what's up, SoBs? How'd you like that chill wave song that brought us in? It's a fireside chat, but it's chill as fuck. My name is Jared Logan. This is the Stream of Blood. Tonight, we're just going to chat by the fire. Oh, actually, let me make my colored lights look more like a fire if I can, so it's more fiery. That just doesn't look like anything. I guess I could just keep doing this. I'll just keep doing this. I'll just do that the whole time. That's not annoying, is it? Is it getting annoying now? Is it getting slightly annoying now? What about now? I'm going to stick with wait. Hey, Clint. Oh, hey, everybody. It's Secret Game Master Clinton Trucks. Hey, what did you think of...
trying to break you out of that.
You want to stop doing this?
Yeah.
So this is not good.
I mean, here's
if I do this.
Wait, it's good, not good. Good, not good. No.
You don't like this?
No, it does. It's warmer. You're going cooler. Give me warmer. Warmer, Jared. Give me warmth.
This is. I like this now.
All right.
Welcome to the Fireside Chat. Well, you didn't have to leave Clinton Trucks. Clinton Trucks is going to be with us all night. We also have Jill Petracek in the off stage, taking your questions from the chat. You can go ahead and send things that you'd like to talk to us about through the chat. Go ahead and start sending them now. We do have a couple announcements to make before we get to those questions. But Clinton Trucks, come back in here, please.
It's me, Clint.
Remember the first one of these, how drunk I got?
You were toasty. You weren't sloppy.
But hopefully that happens again tonight. I've got a 9.0 ABV beer.
If you have two of those, we might be able to recreate that.
I do. I have two.
So
I'm going to get started so that hopefully by the end of the night, I'm just slurring words, making promises we can't keep.
I just glanced over at the chat and see Thursday big upping Jill while slamming me.
What did she say? Jill, how did you get so awesome at both doing your job and Clint's job? Is it natural talent or did you train for months to achieve this prowess? So basically, Jill's better than all of us at all of our jobs. And soon she will be GMing the channel. That's just all you need to know.
If we appear at all professional, it's because Jill showed up.
Yes, exactly. So we have a lot of things to talk about tonight. First on the docket, because it's the most pressing in terms of dates, taking place somewhere towards the end of September. Let's talk Gen Con, everybody.
Yeah,
Gen Con, Indianapolis. Stream of Blood will be there, and we have a lot of interesting things happening. So, first, I will let you know that if you come to Gen Con Indianapolis, there's really cool stuff happening in the convention center and off-site, and I'll be involved in all kinds of things. First, I am running some games. I am going to be running on the first Thursday 2 sessions of Call of Cthulhu 7th Edition, one entitled Frankenstein and the other entitled Dracula. And those will be 3-hour sessions where I will have adapted the actual novels in some way. Yeah. And you will be able to play through those stories.
If you want to see Jared be the most on brand Jared has ever been, join one of those games.
I was like, if I'm going to run games like that aren't like for a crowd, but are for individual, because these are games where I think I limited it to like 5 or 6 people. If I'm going to run that kind of game, it's got to be the thing I would most want to run in the world, and that is Frankenstein and Dracula as Call of Cthulhu scenarios. So that's happening the Thursday. I believe that's let's look at the calendar here.
Well, you do. Our good pal John Harper popped up in the chat. Hey, John.
Oh, hey, John. John, can we interview you again tonight?
John, email me if you want to come and join the chat. You're fully invited.
I actually do want to say, so this next announcement affects John. Or it doesn't really affect him, but I hope that he gives us his blessing for the next event that I can announce. Friday at 2 p.m. at Gen Con Indy, I will be playing a massive game of Blood and Blades with the Glass Cannon cast. We will have Joe O'Brien. We will have Troy LaValle. We will have Skidmauer. And I think we might have, I'm not positive, but I think we might have Nora Ibrahim. So we'll be playing a massive live game that people can sit in an audience and watch of John's incredible creation, Blades in the Dark. It probably will be a whole new crew, or maybe they'll play their characters from the Tin Whistles. Skid doesn't have a character yet. Neither does Nora. So we'll figure all that out. But I just can't wait to play that game in front of an audience, because I think a live audience. I know you guys count as an audience, but a live audience, because I think it's going to go over like gangbusters. I think it's kind of made for that. And I'm going to let the audience in that room affect things that happen in the game as the game is progressing.
I love that our first live game in the history of the channel is in front of an audience and an away game. Like we're in Indianapolis for it. That's kind of amazing.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe before then we'll play something in a room together, because it does appear that is possible now, thanks to I don't know, people kind of calming down about various pandemic things. Stay safe, everybody. But maybe we will do a live game soon. So on with the Gen Con announcement. So that's on Friday. Then both, I think it's Thursday and Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. Glass Cannon has off-site shows. They have shows at the Helium Comedy Club, Indianapolis, and I will be part of those shows. I'll be doing a little stand-up at the beginning of those shows. And if you can get tickets to those shows, they might be close to sold out. But if you can get tickets to those shows, you should, because the Glass Cannon, the one thing they do almost better than their podcast is play live. They're like good at that. So you should get tickets to those shows, and then I'll be in front of them doing some stand-up. That's all the stuff that's officially on the schedule right now for us. But I will say that I've been talking to some friends who run something called LA by Night, and I know that they will also be at the con, and I'm hoping that we can come together on a project as well. It looks like there's a very good chance of that. So I'm not sure what day that will be on, because some things, it takes a little bit of time to kind of get them figured out, but we're getting close. So maybe some other kind of vampire thing will be happening as well. So we'd love to know how many people we have 70, almost 80 people in the audience right now, which is incredible for a show where we don't even play. So thank you for being here. I guess I'll mention right now, subscriptions are how we survive and do more stuff like all of this. So please hit the subscription button. But I guess I would ask anybody in the audience, if they're thinking about going to Gen Con, let us know. Just kind of holler it out on the chat. And I'll just warn you that sign up for different events begins on Sunday. So kind of get ready, because Sunday you need to be at your computer. Those events go quick, don't they, Clint?
They do. And, I should have thought of this before. For anyone who is a member of the Server of Blood, our Discord server, I will make a Gen Con channel. And SOBs who are going to be at the con can sound off there, maybe meet up. I'll put the address of where Jared is staying and let you know some of his favorite restaurants in town, what he'll be wearing.
Yeah, and, places. You just give them like kind of my walking schedule, Clint.
Sure.
When I'll be walking from one hall to another, so that they can find me and jump out at me and scare me. And anybody that scares me gets $100.
100 American dollars.
Yep, that's the deal I just made with you. And you'll see that at $100 as soon as we get out the podcast, according to Skurlock, which I'm definitely really actually doing at some point. So that's Gen Con. We're very excited about that. And now we have some announcements to make about our Blades in the Dark game. Speaking of Skurlock. So, Blades in the Dark, Blood and Blades. It's our favorite game. We are so proud to bring it to you every week. We are hardcore for this game. I've got my Blood and Blades sticker up on my computer now.
Yeah, it changed how we play. We take Blades mechanics and put them in every game we play now.
We kind of do. We kind of just put blades in everything. We have come to the end of sort of our dates that we had scheduled with the Weird Sisters. The Glass Cannon, as you know, has had some trouble making dates with our Blades game. And so we have decided to retool, revamp, and come back strong in the autumn. And so what I'm announcing right now, and trust me, if it's sad to you, it's a little sad to us. We're going to go on a brief hiatus with Blades in the Dark. We're just going to go on a brief hiatus for the rest of the summer until Gen Con is over. And then we are going to come back and we're going to bring back those players you've seen already. We're going to have an enormous crossover super game that kind of finally these characters will meet, and there will be a Duskfall Civil War. Civil War : Duskfall. That's the name I'm pitching right now. What do you think, Clint?
I love it. I especially love it for the viewers because we didn't plan on a civil war. They created one in the faction turn. So this is the civil war you asked for.
When the Ministry of Preservation takes over the Leviathan Hunters, you've got some very angry nobles, and you do not want angry nobles, ladies and gentlemen, unless you also want a civil war. Or a revolution, call it what you will, but when we come back in September with Blades in the Dark, with Blood and Blades, we will have a big, juicy crossover game that will kind of put a couple threads to rest. And then we are continuing with Blades. Long term, we love Blades in the Dark. We love our Blood and Blades series. So starting in September, we'll be back with new crews. And probably kind of a new status quo for Duskfall. It might jump ahead a couple of years to kind of clear the play area a little bit, take some toys off and put some new toys in. I bet you some of the people that you're used to watching in the show will be back. And I bet you some will retire their scoundrels for now. Yeah. So anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, only that scheduling aside, there's no one we play with who hasn't said how excited they are to come back and return as soon as we can get schedules to align. And that includes the Glass Cannon. But go check their schedules. They are booked crazy. They're on the road for much of the summer and fall. So when they're free up, we promise we'll try and get as many of them back as we can in the new schedule.
Right. So we thought, instead of like kind of letting our sort of cool interlocking crew world kind of derail because we keep missing sessions with people, we'll just get everybody confirmed for a big civil war around mid-September, and then that'll give us time to come back with some new crews. And tell us what you'd like to see. I mean, we really are always open to your comments. And also, Clinton Trucks, I feel so bad about the fact that we even have to go on hiatus that I think that I am going to do something kind of wild.
Do I know about this?
Well, yeah, it was in the outline I gave you for what we're going to talk about tonight.
Okay.
And it's pretty easy to organize, except that we have to figure out, of the people that say, I'll do that, who gets picked. I think we will do a subscriber game for Blades in the Dark. So if you are a subscriber to the Stream of Blood and you are jonesing for Blades in the months of July and August, and you're feeling sad you can't get none, we will set up something where, of course, I can't play with, 12 people at a time, unfortunately, but we will set up something where, a crew of 5 or 6 go on a little adventure that, barring any sort of disaster, can live on the channel in perpetuity. And we will we'll let you also kind of steer the world of our Duskfall that way as well. We'll see what this crew does. Maybe it won't even be a traditional crew. Maybe it will be a group of inspectors or railjacks or something of that nature.
We'll find a fair way to choose from amongst our many deserving subscribers. And that is a conversation that also will happen on the Server of Blood in the Blood and Blades subscriber channel.
So that's just my way of saying sorry that we have to go on hiatus, but thank you for your hardcore, just kind of enthusiasm for this series and for being so into the faction turn. We weren't sure if that would work, and then it did, and we were so happy. Oh, check it out. We have a special guest.
Dun, dun, dun. Hey, John.
Hey, John, how's it going?
Hello, hello, hello.
Good to see you, man.
So good to be here. That was one of the most epic Twitch interactions I think anyone in chat has ever had. I chatted, and now I'm on the show. It's like a genie has appeared and granted a wish.
In film, I would work a lot with Bobcat Goldthwait, and he had the idea for the best show in the world called "Put Me in the Movie." Because whenever you're filming on the street, some asshole walks by and shouts, "Put me in the movie," and his idea was. The first person who shouts it, you grab them, you put them through hair and makeup in the works, you give them sides, and they're in the movie.
I love it. That's so
this
good.
is your put me in the movie. We did
it. You did it. It's real. I would have been here sooner. I had to pick up my mail. You're not gonna be able to see it because I got black on black. But I have the sexiest T-shirt on the market. I mean, Dragon Sound is pretty cool, but look at this beauty. It's just everyone's got to pick this up. But it's black upon black. It's gorgeous.
Who told us? Who kept telling us to do black on black as an option?
I know who it was.
There she is.
Hey, oh my god!
All right, vindicated.
Yes.
So good.
Oh god,
it's so good. I love it.
It looks wonderful. Thank you, Jill. Great. Sometimes people yell, "Put me in the movie." Sometimes they shout, "The Matrix." But anyway, we just wanted to set a precedent that if you say hello in the chat, you will be on the show at some point. So, especially if you've designed a bunch of cool games.
Step one. Have a multi-decade career in games, and this could be you.
Yeah, it's all it takes. It's really easy. Just knock that out.
Since John is here, we can talk about the fact that some other stuff we have coming up is we're going to play some Agon, but we're going to play it in a very specific version of it. Bloodstroke 2 Saga of the Ravensguard, and that is the original name for the game, Bloodstroke 2 Saga of the Ravensguard. It is a sequel that has no original.
Ravensguard.
Yeah, Sagas of the Ravensguard.
Well, Bloodstroke 1, it was a cult hit, but it didn't really warrant an RPG tie-in. But Bloodstroke 2 was huge. We all remember how big it was on the PS2 back in the day. So
I'm a 2000s and early 2000s kid. The 2000s for me were just like Paris Hilton listening to that song, Third Eye Blind, and then playing Bloodstroke 2 Sagas of the Ravensguard.
Yeah,
I had my PS. I went and I bought a copy of Devil May Cry, but inside was a disc for Bloodstroke 1. And it turns out that's my particular franchise.
When you buy used games, sometimes that's what happens. We have gotten to play some Agon at home, and I highly recommend everybody go out and play some Agon because it's pure fun, and you get all the cool fantasy itches you want to scratch, and all the cool badass combat. All of those itches get heavily scratched as well. I'm going to abandon the scratch metaphor. My point is, we had a lot of fun with it, Clint, didn't we? And
we did. It's a game of all climaxes. Essentially, everybody just says the cool thing you're going to do. It's
yes,
it's
that's
all
exactly
car crashes all the time.
I think that's my favorite review of Agon ever. It's all climaxes. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
In every sense of the word. Our game got very adult. Now,
look, it's ancient Greek heroes, and we all know what they got up to. It was very hot.
It's in the books. It's in the books.
It's right there. It's right there.
It's in Homer.
All that olive oil's for.
Yeah. So, John, can you just tell us a little bit about because I think that you know how the rules are different or simulate something slightly different for Bloodstroke. Can you describe that to me before I run the game?
We haven't really talked about.
We'll figure it out. I'm not concerned about that.
Who is in charge of making sure this happens is unclear.
There's a title.
We got a title. We got people to play it. We have a GM and a game designer, neither of which know how it works yet. So that's great. I mean, we're doing everything right as far as I can tell.
We're on the right path. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so the ink is still wet. I shared a kind of draft character sheet with you all a little while ago.
Yes.
It's very similar to Agon as it stands. You have your name die. The strength of your character's legend is one of their main qualities. Your name in Agon becomes bigger over time, and that's one of your main powers.
Yeah.
But I feel like Bloodstroke 2, Sagas of the Ravensguard, shifting gears from Bloodstroke 1, which was a little bit more about the solitary vampire hunter. Now we're getting into this sort of team game.
Sure.
And so
it's the Blade 3.
Yes, exactly. That's right. So there's a team of Ravensguard heroes that have banded together, presumably against some sort of Dracula-esque villain. Perhaps it's actually Dracula. Public domain now. I mean, like, we can do whatever we want.
Oh yeah.
I feel confident that Jared will give us a very appropriate vampire antagonist.
Well, at level 1, they only get to fight Renfield, but go on.
Damn it. There's no level 1 in Agon, Jared. It's level 20.
I know.
It's at the beginning.
You start at level 20. That is actually, I mean, yeah, that's one of the cool things about it. Like, that's great. Yeah, Dracula, yes.
Yeah. So mechanically, I was thinking in Agon, when you compete in contests, the level of strife that your character faces is the amount of glory you win if you achieve your goal. So the tougher the opposition, the more the glory. And so the characters in the traditional version of Agon are driven towards, these feats of glory. And I think that makes sense for vampire hunters as well. But sure, as Sean Nittner and I were talking about in our little email thread, like, maybe these characters aren't merely normal mortals. Perhaps they're blood touched. Perhaps they've gotten too close to the flame, so to speak.
Yeah.
And maybe they're all vampire hunters, but they've got, maybe they've been bitten, or maybe their bloodline has been corrupted, and they're a little too close to the edge. So the
original title was Twice Shy.
That's right. So I think the glory mechanic might adapt itself well to maybe also being, there's glory to be had as a vampire hunter, but there's also blood and thirst that's always hovering nearby. In your exaltation of violence and achievement, maybe that darkness inside you might spill over. So right now on the character sheet, I have a blood meter and a chalice underneath it that is collecting this overflow of victory and going too far. And when your chalice fills, perhaps that's the turning point of the character for their inner demon to kind of come out. So
you live long enough to be the villain. You live a really, really, really long time, actually. That makes you the villain. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm thinking just a blood-drenched Hammer film.
I
think so. Slash PS1 video game. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think it has potential.
We love our vampires here on this channel. Are you a vampire? Is there something in the vampire world that is particularly dear to you, John?
Yeah, I am of a certain vintage as a gamer, and so I remember that beautiful green marble cover with the rose that appeared in the game store that week, and we all went, "What is this?" And that was a big bombshell. And I was a fan of Dracula the novel before that, just as a book nerd, but the way that the vampire role-playing game chose to interpret that mythology was obviously its own thing and was a real huge influence on everything. But for me, ultimately, I gotta say, the real touchstone for me is Buffy and Angel and all that. That's my vampire stuff for sure.
Buffy's amazing. Buffy it's also from that PS1 era, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
But Buffy, Buffy sort of you don't have these CW shows without Buffy. You don't have Arrow. No. You don't have The Flash. You actually don't have, I think, I think you don't have Star Trek Discovery, the way they tell the story without Buffy. Buffy was doing the meta plot before, maybe right as the same time The Sopranos was. Buffy was doing that beautiful long storytelling right then. That was the best part of it for me.
It was.
I think, yeah.
Jane Espenson is one of the great masters of TV writing, I think, and really gets how to construct a story, meta plot, season story, and the B stories of the episodes and the C stories, and just weave all those things together. But it wouldn't have happened if the network system at the time wasn't amenable to this idea of not having standalone, like having continuity was okay all of a sudden.
Yeah.
In a way that it wasn't before. And that let them do, I think maybe from the popularity of like adult soap operas and that sort of stuff. But
or maybe because it was over on the WB and like, it's for teenagers.
Yeah. Do what you want.
They don't go out like us adults, you know,
you
know, they see every show. Well, I would say probably that show also taught me a little bit how to structure a campaign. You know, if anybody out there is, you know, wondering, oh, how do I get my campaign to keep going and going? Like that's, I would say probably one of the best shows to watch, just to see how they kind of do a monster of the week, but also keep these, you know, ABC stories going. It's really great.
For sure.
And ran a party.
Very character driven, and you don't need to have a balanced group of characters, right? You can have these characters that are just totally ordinary human beings and someone who's this really powerful superhero, and they all kind of share this dramatic weight together, and it takes away that idea that you have to like be equally competent or whatever. And actually
totally
the Buffy RPG,
the game balance myth. You don't need game balance.
Exactly.
Really.
You really don't need game balance. And although the Buffy RPG, was it Eden who produced that? I think they did a good job with actually kind of having game balance with Xander and those characters having these sort of like luck point kind of things that help them be, you know, relevant. But I think as a GM, those types of shows, and something like Lost, where they had the flashbacks, like really telling the story of the characters, and all those early like continuity based shows were such a huge benefit for GMs, I think, to change their minds from I'm the planner who has to do everything myself to like, if it's just driven by the characters, you can still have really interesting dramas. It doesn't have to be this like top down thing.
Yeah, and your games are kind of like that. You know, I mean, Blades, for example, doesn't even kind of let the GM plan in some ways, because it's like, you don't know what the approach they're going to take. So, you know, let them kind of drive it. You kind of have to. And that's really great. That's really a wonderful thing. Clint, what about you? Do you have a vampire thing that's like your favorite vampire thing?
I didn't really engage with vampires until the World of Darkness. Probably, like I had the same awareness of Dracula, and as the chat is talking about Banicula, that everybody else did. But I'm a big fan of, you know, like a Let the Right One In. I remember when in the early days,
great
before it was even
movie
out in America, there was just an unmarked DVD floating around all the agencies here in LA, and everybody who saw it was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, that was amazing. Amazing.
We should give a shout out to Undying, which after John mentioned it as his favorite vampire RPG, I looked it up and read it and was kind of really excited. Like, it does some of the things a Masquerade does, and then it does so many other really cool things. And it does it with sort of some powered by the apocalypse rules, but definitely really kind of catered and altered to fit that kind of world of modern predators in the urban jungle. And guys, you gotta check it out. We should play some.
It has one of my favorite mechanics in any game, because you play a single night in the predator's lives each session, and they're separated by any amount of years. So they're, instead of, one of the issues I had with the old vampire was often you're ageless immortals, but you would play like 2 weeks of their lives or something.
Right.
Welcome to our world, John.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not hitting that note. And so in Paul's game, you play a single evening where things have come to a head, and we imagine that these immortals have been doing machinations across centuries and doing all this setup and all these plots. But we play this one intense night of conflict between them. And then the next session can be as far ahead in the future as we want. And so instead of assuming that their lives are constant death struggles every day, it's just we play the sessions when those things happen in their long lives. So in order to show that, the fighting mechanic is one of my favorite. It's a diceless Apocalypse World game, so you, instead of rolling, you bid tokens, your character's blood strength, essentially. And when you do a fight, when two vampires directly fight, like physically fight to the death, which you really don't want to do, I secretly bid a certain number of tokens, and the other vampire player secretly bids a number of tokens, and we reveal, and the winner kills the loser, and that's it.
Done.
It's so brutal, and
it's a battle of will.
It's so rough that you're like, maybe I should try to trick them instead. Maybe I don't want to do the fight thing.
Yeah.
It's really, really amazing. It brings in all of that drama that you have and those questions you might ask, like, well, why don't these characters just go to violence? And then when you see this mechanic, you go, oh, I now I get it. Now I understand why they don't go to violence. It's too much. It's so risky to.
Sure, your immortality ends that night.
Yeah.
I especially love that immortality, like the March of Time kind of mechanic where you can jump ahead years, because every time you play the Masquerade, which is a great game, but anytime you bring a new player, they go, can I be from ancient Rome? And you're like, of course you can't. That would make you an elder.
No, that's not allowed. Yeah.
But how cool would it be to play a game where you jump forward like that when important stuff happens?
Our playtest series.
Have either of you engaged with this yet?
Yes, that game is so amazing. Same idea, right? Traveling through time. 1,000-Year-Old Vampire is awesome. Really, really good.
I'm waiting to have like a weekend in jail or something where I have nothing to do but commit myself to a game of 1,000-Year-Old Vampire.
It's fantastic. Our playtest series for Undying was all set in Paris, and we went from like 1819 to 2119, I think.
Wow.
So yeah, we had this like amazing run of centuries across like 9 sessions or something. It was great.
Guys, imagine the Blood Raves in 2119. I mean, that's a cyberpunk Blood Rave. That's a great Blood Rave.
Once the people at the Impossible Burger perfect heme,
that's
vampires will be able True Blood.
That's right.
Well, that's awesome. You want to just hang out and go through some of our announcement with us, John, and we'll talk about all these games we're talking about playing. So, because it's the summer months, I just had a new baby. Clint is about. Am I allowed to say this, Clint? No, I'm not.
No, cat's out of the bag. I'm having a baby in October, everybody.
Clint and his partner are having a baby in October. I wasn't supposed to say that, but now there's another bundle of joy coming. And they're going to be, so his son and my son, or no, you have a daughter. Your daughter and my son will be playing tabletop role-playing game.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. And it was, now Clint, correct me if I'm wrong. This was, you guys conceived using the rhythm method.
Did I ever tell you that the rhythm method was my old college rap group?
Is that true?
Yeah.
You were in a rap group?
Have I ever never told you my collegiate rap like nom de guerre? It's the greatest thing I've ever come up with.
Is this true? Don't
This is
toy with us.
Real deal Holyfield, Jared.
Okay, go ahead, buddy.
My rap name was J.R.R. Puffin Stuff.
So you picked the cool J.R.R. Tolkien reference, but you were like, that's cool, but I need to balance that out with the really cool H.R. Puffin Stuff reference.
Thinking that the J.R.R. Tolkien reference is also cool just says something about you.
Can you rap? I didn't know that you could rap.
Well, I can't, but that doesn't stop anyone, Jared.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, it should stop them, but that's cool.
Should it? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't have the rhythm for it, but or to sing or to do anything musical. But is there any video of this somewhere?
Oh God, no.
That's a shame.
Although chat with our good friend Greg Keeney about it, he was DJ Irish Cream.
Okay, this feels like a joke rap group.
Well,
which, by the way, is not allowed. Rap groups have to be sincere as hell.
Authenticity above all else.
I just feel like there's a lot of sincerity in the hip hop, and you don't get hip hop like I do, Clint. So it's cool.
We have a fun question in chat, by the way.
Oh, good. Let's hit it. What is
it? Eric, my dear friend Eric Vulgaris, who you may know.
Oh yeah.
He wants to know what we're drinking tonight, and Jared, I feel like you're making a move. What do you got there?
I'm not extremely proud of this. I got this beer because it was called Maximus.
Ooh, okay.
And I didn't know what that meant.
It's Lagunitas. It
sounded like a gladiator. It's Lagunitas, so it's very good. And then when I got it home, I said to my wife, 9.0 ABV. And she's like, don't drink a lot of those at once. And then, that's what I'm going to do.
Well, before we go past this, DJ Irish Cream is in the chat right now. And Jared, he says, you're a joke rap group.
See, you're being funny. That's a real rapper just be like, fuck you, motherfucker.
Wow.
Greg also had a great bit where he'd walk in the room and he would see a bunch of us sitting down and go, some motherfucker's going to mess around and get his lips kissed. That's the kind of rappers we were.
All right.
Nice.
I want to hear, is there an album?
No, of course not.
Wow.
Okay.
Well,
I do have a jacket. I'll wear my Rhythm Method jacket.
There's no album, but there's a jacket.
I would very much like to see that.
We had merch.
Yeah, I definitely want to see that.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So hang on, wait 1 second.
Yes.
I am proud of what I'm drinking, so I'm going to share.
What do we got?
I'm drinking Hellcat Maggie, which is a relatively new Irish whiskey, named for the infamous 5 Points gangster from history.
But who has a great appearance in Gangs of New York.
Yes, she is awesome in Gangs of New York. They got the detail of her filing her teeth to points, which is something that she actually did. It's just come out in the last few years, and I'm a huge whiskey snob. If you like Irish whiskey, definitely get it. It's great.
Now I'm going to do what I do when someone shows me what looks like a tasty whiskey is I act like a drunk in a 1940s movie, and I go.
Nice. Is this where I tell you guys I'm drinking Limoncello LaCroix?
How is that? Right. What's your LaCroix ranking? Where you?
And you call yourself a rap artist?
I'm sponsored. I think this is top of the heap. I love the limoncello.
Oh, it's like above hibiscus.
Oh yeah, it's got kind of like a cream soda kind of thing, soft on the edges.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
Look, I mean, I don't know where you all fall in favorite LaCroix flavor, LaCroix, but I would say the one that mixes best with vodka is the coconut. You feel like you're having a pina colada or something. You're not. But you get a little of that coconut splash in there with your vodka. Very good.
Fancy. I've been using the peach pear as a mixer, and that's pretty good too. But I haven't tried the coconut yet.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what else, John. You can mix tuna right into your ramen. That's good stuff, man. That'll give you some protein
and mercury.
So we have a couple more things coming up. So the reason I mentioned that Clinton Trucks and I are going to be busy changing diapers is because I'm going to be out of town for a little while in August, but you're going to still get shows every Sunday in our vampire series. But just like we did Inquisitors of Pittsburgh a couple months ago during our last Chronicle, this time we're doing Magi of Pittsburgh. So the Mages of Pittsburgh will be taking over the channel for about 3 weeks. We're going to have 3 episodes of Magi of Pittsburgh. You're going to find out. And yes, we are using Mage the Ascension. And yes, we have, well, kind of yet, because yes, we have went ahead and taken the magic rules and thrown them out. And we are adapting our own version of the Magic rules. I was going to tell people a little bit about that. And thank God I have a game designer here to go, I don't think that'll work, Jared. Or that sounds perfect.
Because we have not tested it, to be clear.
Well, I've tested it a little bit at home, just pretending to cast spells.
We tested it in Vampires of Pittsburgh, actually.
Yeah, we've been testing it in our vampire game. So basically, I thought the hunger mechanic in V5 works so well, and it's so simple, right? As you get hungrier, and you roll like a die every once in a while when something would make you hungrier when you wake up for the night. And if you get a 6 or above, you don't get hungrier. And if you get a 5 or lower, you get hungrier. And then you add a hunger die to every dice pool, depending on what your hunger is. So if your hunger is 3,
you replace a die.
You replace. Thank you, sir. You don't add, you replace. That is important. So you replace a die in your pool with a hunger die. And then if you have crits on your hunger dice, you have a messy critical and you do something horribly vampiric. If you have a failure where one or more of the hunger dice come up as a 1, you have what's called a bestial failure, and you're unable to keep the facade that you were a person. Your beast takes over again, and you do something horribly vampiric in your failure. You reveal your hidden nature, and you are a disgusting blood-sucking corpse. So that works so well that we're just going to adapt that to Mage. Mage had so many little fiddly things in it with all the spheres and the paradox and the quintessence and all of these different terms and the arete. I think that Mage is one of my favorite old games. I'm a big White Wolf guy in general, but Mage is a huge game for me because of the open form magic system where you kind of design your own spells on the fly and things like that. And I also love all the little groups in the world and the whole science versus magic, fight for reality thing that predates things like the Matrix, where, in the Matrix, they're like, reality isn't real. Mage does that way earlier. So I love all that stuff. So we had to bring it into the modern day. So we're adapting it almost exactly. Anytime I'm going to go into the mechanic now. I'm actually going to tell everybody what the mechanic is, because before we play, I would love to hear people's input, and they can go, that doesn't sound like that'll work. Or, have you thought about this? Or, that sounds great, Jared. You're doing a great job, and you look great. Your complexion is really kind of rosy, which is what GMs would like to hear. But anyway, I'm also opening myself up to criticism. So
I gotta say before we're both jumping in.
Please jump in.
2 secret GMs at once. It's overload. No, based on what your teaser of how hunger works, as you were saying that, I was casting my mind forward, and I think I know what you're gonna say, and not having heard it, I'm already gonna give it the stamp of approval because I think I know where you're going, and I love it.
Well, let's see. I think that you probably do know where I'm going, because I didn't do any kind of, magical chicanery game designery that took a giant leap. I just said, let's make that great hunger mechanic from V5 the paradox mechanic. And so basically in Mage, in our version, whenever you cast a spell, if it's coincidental, you roll to see if you gain paradox. And if you get a 5 or under, you do. And if you get a 6 or above, you don't. But if you cast a vulgar spell, I've decided you automatically get 1 paradox and you roll to see if you get a second one. If you cast a vulgar with witnesses spell, meaning you throw a fireball down Main Street in front of Mr. McFeely and the rest of the neighborhood of make-believe, everybody sees you, then you automatically gain 2 paradox, and then you roll to see if you gain a third. And then anytime you cast magic, those paradox dice replace dice in your pool. That would, and then if you get crits on the paradox dice, something crazy happens. And if you fail and one or more of your paradox dice come up as a 1, then it is a terrible, horrible paradox backlash. And I have rules for, and it really, they're straight out of the old book. To be honest, I just kind of they go like, these are things that can happen with paradox backlashes. And I was like, okay, that's if this many paradox goes off this way, and that's it. And I just kind of tore up their old game and cut and pasted it into my new version. And that's basically how it works. One thing that I thought was, how do you get rid of paradox, right? Because in the old game, it's like when you just explode, when you have a backlash, you get rid of it. But there should be another way to get rid of it. And the old game had this stuff called quintessence, which were like power points. And then you had to go to a sacred site, a mage's sacred site, to get them and absorb that site's resonance. And then you got these quintessence points, and those could be used to give you extra die, and on and on and on, etc. I was like, that's an extra power bar I don't want. Yeah, I don't want that extra power bar. I just want the paradox. So now when you go to one of those sacred sites and you spend time there, your paradox goes down. So if you want to be a guy that plays it safe, and but that's why mages fight over those sacred sites, and that would be, in my mind, the main thrust of the game is all these different groups going, I want to control the Mall of America because the roller coaster generates consumer ferocity, and I can use it in my magic.
It's like a death trap.
It's like you have turf and downtime in your game. That seems like a good idea.
Don't compare it to a better game, John.
I mean, I'm just saying. I think those seem like good concepts for an RPG.
I think you're right. I think you are right. There's a word for this kind of game design you're doing, a technical term in the business, Jared, and that word is
a rip and run. Oh,
wait, what did John say?
I said elegant.
Oh, elegant. Also ripping off. I'll accept both definitions.
I mean, I guess I'm actually complimenting the modern vampire designers for the way they instituted hunger, because it is quite good.
It's great.
But understanding that maps to paradox perfectly is wonderful, and I think it's a shame that that's not how it actually works in the new version of Mage, because that's so good.
The new version of Mage, which is, look, I don't want to criticize anybody. It's a beautiful book. It's a beautiful book. I like it too. But they added stuff.
They did.
They were like, no matter what source book is your favorite, we just went ahead and put it in this book. And I think that's cool. But on the other hand, I like a little elegance, if you can, which means less stuff, a little less.
And when we say new version of Mage, that's still 6 or 7 years old, right?
It's been a while, There's really good stuff in there, but I love this adaptation. What we played Mage back when it came out, and we're really into it. And somebody among our game group decided very brilliantly to imagine the sort of universe, the David Lynch-averse, as our Mage setting, where all of that stuff was of a piece. Twin Peaks and Lost Highway and everything was like a world. So that's the world that we played in as Mage characters, and it really was a perfect blending of those things. It was much loved.
That's awesome. I mean, it does work in a lot of different kind of tones and settings. Later, I finally read like all the Grant Morrison, the Invisibles and stuff like that, and of course Hellblazer. But like there are so many like old comics that like kind of did Mage, so there's lots of things to draw from for Mage. You can do so many different kinds of games. I think that's also what kind of sometimes blew people's mind, is like when a game is incredibly broad and they go, and you could do a Western, or you could do a cyberpunk, or you could do like, sometimes it's like, well, what do I do with it though? So you have to make that decision, and that responsibility is heavy, everybody. Our cast for Magi of Pittsburgh, Clinton Trucks, tell them who we have.
We're very excited about the cast we put together for Magi of Pittsburgh. It is 2 players new to the Stream of Bloodiverse, and 1 familiar face. We'll start with our familiar face. You know him, you love him. He is a member of the Better Than Heroes crew. He plays with us in the Kinahora as Elazar, Bookbinder, Drakkar. One Aaron Urist will be joining us.
Yes.
Aaron is joined by a player who I play with in a home game, a writer, comedian, improviser, law student currently, one Sarah Rose Kaplan. Sarah plays in a game with Ross Bryant with me, and she's been fantastic. We were very excited to get her here on the channel. If you've been enjoying the work of Mary Lou on our current Neptune Society game, they are quite close, and we play in this D&D home game together. But finally, we've been trying to get it to the schedules to work out for a while, but Amy Vorpal will be joining us for... Yeah, Amy's great, right? Amy Vorpal will be joining us for Magi of Pittsburgh. We pulled her out of the D&D world, and we're going to have her play.
That's so cool. That's
my
so cool.
dream is to like get all of these like incredible D&D people that you've seen play D&D and have them playing like Over the Edge.
Yeah.
And like all of these like obscure Cult Divinity Lost with Amy Vorpal. Like that's what
the most requested game on our YouTube for some reason. Everyone wants us to play fucking Cult for some reason.
Really?
Cult.
Wow.
Interesting. Well, it's interesting.
Wow.
I mean, it's got an interesting setting. I like some of the
Sure.
kind of lore or whatever.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's the Clive Barker the game, which is I'm a big Clive Barker fan.
How long does our content warning need to be every session if we play Cult?
Well, I probably, I'm incapable of going too far. I just feel like when you're playing a role-playing game, unless you and your creepy buddies decided to go too far, maybe you just shouldn't. So, like just in general ever. So, with Cult, I think you can be plenty creepy without being over the line. But yeah, we would have to have a content warning. You're right. Okay, so that's that. That's going to be appearing in August for about 3 weeks, and we hope you enjoy it. We just booked it and scheduled it today, and let us know if you have thoughts on the old Magic system. You'll see it in action pretty soon.
Finally, are you running that game, Jared? Is that your?
I will be running that game. That'll be my little baby.
Nice.
My sweet little baby.
It occurs to me we talked about Bloodstroke and blew past the fact that we're going to be playing Bloodstroke on the 20th and 27th of July, everybody. And John Harper will be joined by his friend, design partner, employee of Evil Hat One, Sean Nittner.
Indeed. Yes, Captain America himself. That's
can't wait.
Name for Sean. And I will definitely have a completed game design by then, and Jared will know what it is. Yeah. That's for sure.
Within minutes.
I don't need to understand the rules to run the game, John. Just so you know,
that takes a load off for me.
Yeah,
that's nice. I like that.
Yeah. So the final thing we want to officially announce. We've mentioned it before, but we are going to be debuting for you. We think in September now, right before the release of the film, in partnership with Modiphius. And with the Glass Cannon, our friends in the Glass Cannon again, we will be playing a 6-part miniseries of Dune adventures in the Imperium. And we have been playtesting the hell out of this, have we not, Clinton Trucks?
We have indeed.
So that we can kind of figure out how it works and how to play it. And I thought we could just talk about this game a little bit. John, have you gotten a chance to look at it or play any of the Modiphius stuff or look at the books yet?
I am definitely a fan of the Modiphius stuff. I think Star Trek in particular is really cool.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
I haven't played Dune yet though, and I can't wait. I'm a big, huge Dune fan. And
thank God. Because I was like, can we please talk just some Dune tonight? Like in general?
Yeah, for sure. But I would love to hear what you think of the game because I haven't even like cracked it yet. So Well, it's great. I mean, it does things. So the Modiphius system is pretty fun. It has like, it's basically like you have 2 d20s and sometimes and you can roll on them and you try to roll under a target number. And so you can get 2 successes on those 2 d20s, but often the game master is like, you need 4 successes and you have to figure out how to use all these little rules to kind of put together like the perfect roll, basically to affect the environment, to get your advantages lined up. And then maybe sometimes a little luck and you're able to get 4 or 5 successes or whatever you need. And that's really good for Dune because if you've read Dune or you're familiar with the universe, it's about people with machinations and intrigues and
putting their pawns where they need them to be and setting up the environment perfectly to like take advantage of their opponents. And so that the game simulates that really well. The system is kind of altered from Star Trek and from Conan, which is what I've played from Modiphius a little bit, in that it's a little more abstracted, which I also appreciated. So your character adds their skill, which might be in battle or move. That's a skill, any kind of. So move covers flying an ornithopter or running across the desert. There's communicate, which, again, that covers writing a letter or, seducing somebody. And you add a skill to a drive, and your drives are the things that your character believes. So your drives have to do with power, justice, truth, duty, things like that. And you get to write statements beside the ones that are really high that kind of say what your character feels about those things. And so all of that is really cool because it brings the character into it in a major way. And that is also part of the Dune universe. It's a kind of at the same time, it will be about dueling and these big battles with sandworms and laser guns. It's also usually a conflict of philosophy and all of that.
And because that's always a factor, you contextualize every conflict, but with your passion, or drive in this case. That's cool. I like that.
How does the game work, Jared? Does everybody get to be Paul Atreides? Will we be playing House
You get to choose between Paul Atreides. You get to choose between Paul Atreides or Chani. It's a 2-player game. Now, the last thing I wanted to say is that and then I will answer. I think I'm answering your question. So conflicts in the game, what you might know in another game as like combat. Actually, this is a little similar to the Blade series and to some of the Powered by the Apocalypse stuff, in that there's one system to rule them all. Instead of saying, okay, that's how skills work, now let's take you to our completely different and boutique combat system. This game doesn't do that. It says, whether you are fighting someone via intrigue, meaning like spreading rumors and like making them lose face, or whether you are literally leading squads of men up a hill to take a battle station, it's all the same system. And that's really cool because it means the game does let you be the commander of troops, or the guy who's in the alleyway stabbing people that are trying to stab him, or, the Bene Gesserit who's at the party kind of manipulating her foes and making them lose face in front of the emperor or what have you. So it lets you do all of that, all with sort of the same base system. And that's very cool.
Yeah, I like that.
In an early game test, Ross Bryant played a servant, and he was clearly the most useful person in the group.
Yeah, well, that's always Ross. But it is a true Clint. Like, you can play a servant or someone. You don't have to be a Bene Gesserit. You don't have to be Muad'Dib. You could be someone who's just kind of a small cog in a big machine, but you can still do all kinds of cool shit in this game.
I mean, that goes back to our Buffy conversation in the stories. The very pivotal characters come from all classes and ethnicities, and they're just all over the place. The people that have these linchpin moments that decide the fate of the galaxy. Yeah, there's a chosen one and everything, and that does happen. But also there is the servant that is like extremely important in the first book, and that's really cool. I'm not surprised they did that, but it's nice that it's there.
It's nice that they give you that option. They kind of talk about it a little bit in the book, and I don't know if they've quite worked it all out yet, but like that you can do sort of what's called an architects and agents game, where maybe you play two characters, and one of your characters is the heir of the house or the lord, and the other character is his assassin or his guy that gets him stuff illegally, or a servant, literally somebody who works down in the laundry room of the palace. And then you get to, it's been Downton Abbey, but on Arrakis, everybody. You get to see both sides.
Upstairs, downstairs. Yeah.
Oh, I'm down for that. That sounds multiple characters is my jam for sure. Most people do not like that, it turns out, but I do.
I think it can work really well, and the game gives rules for creating minor characters on the fly, or characters who are sort of just like your character's weapon they use, you're like, oh, I'm the Lord of the House and I have a sword master, go get him. And then it gives you, how do I create that character quickly so I can just kind of use him as my kind of pawn, and it lets you, it tells you how to do that. So they get Dune,
that's
is
cool.
what I'm saying, and they also get how to make a modern, streamlined game that is fun to play. And we had so much fun once we got into really the conflict system, didn't we, Clint? Where we were running a quote unquote combat. I thought that's when it really kind of came to life a lot, because it flowed and it wasn't too kind of clunky and granular. So we look forward to that. That'll be in September. We are doing a particular type of game with this. So we thought about doing the Architects and Agents game for various reasons. We're not sure that that's going to work. So what we're going to do is something else that's very Dune. We're going to do a game where the first group, which will be the Stream of Blood group, will be in one time period. And then the next group, the Glass Cannon group, will be far enough into the future that it's like their children, or it's them at a much older age. And it'll jump forward like a couple generations, and everything that was started in 50 years before will come to a head 50 years later. So I'm really excited to do it that way, because I feel like it's so Dune to do that. It's like so Sean, I'm sorry, John, you've read the books.
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of the books and David Lynch's, or arguably not David Lynch's, extremely weird movie. Definitely on board with all of that, and also all the critiques, the very warranted critiques of that material. I think it's all really fascinating, and
thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for bringing that up, because we wanted to bring that up tonight. It's like, so we're gonna play in the Dune universe, and Frank Herbert wrote it, and he wrote it. He started writing it, I think, in 1964. What I'm taking way too long to get into is the fact that there are some attitudes in the Dune novels that I think are pretty retrograde regarding homosexuality in particular.
Yeah.
For example, the Baron Harkonnen, who is like just this horrible, disgusting, evil beast of a villain. He part of the way, let's not sugarcoat it. Part of the way that Frank Herbert shows that he's horrible is that he desires men. That's disappointing. It's disappointing. It's really, really disappointing.
Yeah.
And later in the books, I'm through book 4 now. Get to God Emperor, and then there's a whole theory of homosexuality that's sort of bandied, and it's not. Look, at no point is it like I don't know why I'm not defending it, but it's retrograde. It's like silly. It's weird. It's wrong-headed, and it's unfortunate. It's disappointing. That is something we will not be putting into our game. Something that we do not believe in or condone. But I think that just like you can play in the worlds of H.P. Lovecraft, you can take these worlds and you can kind of do something new with them that says something about right now. And we think differently right now. And so our game will show you what we think about, the current era and our attitudes now. And I think that even these authors would have wanted that to have their thing live on and adapt and like learn in ways that they were not able. I think that that's kind of a cool thing. So,
in a perfect like meta way, possibly so. But I think there's also some satisfaction to be had, even if we imagine someone like Lovecraft and a pretty unrepentant racist, for one thing. Yeah. I think there's some satisfaction to be had if we imagine that he would actually hate what we're doing with his material. That's also kind of fun and cool.
Yeah, that's nice too.
You know, right? Like there's a level of fuck you that like we're not even gonna let you stop us from using your material because you sucked. You know what I mean? Like I understand the people that want to stay far away from that and they hear the name and they just are like, I'm out. I don't want to be
of course
like that. I totally get that. And no one has to like participate by default. But there I do derive a little bit of satisfaction from the idea that like, yeah, maybe we're sticking a thumb in their eye a little bit when we do this. That's okay with me. I like that idea.
No, I do too. And, there are people that make an argument, well, it was the 1920s for Lovecraft or the 1960s for Frank Herbert. And just to be completely clear, there were people who weren't racist in the 1920s. So H.P. Lovecraft, he was widely read. He had thoughts, and he was clearly a guy that had complicated thoughts and feelings. And he could have figured it out. So I'm not letting anyone off the hook because of the time period they lived in. I'm just saying let's take this thing they made and make it something new now, and let go of that crap that they
don't need to define it forever. I'm a big fan of reclassifying the genre as cosmic horror, for instance.
Yes,
instead of calling it Lovecraftian, which is fine. I mean, that's not like a sin to say that, but I think it's nice to just sort of let him die and move on, you know, and maybe this version of Doom will be, and potentially the movie we'll see will be another way to kind of move on and let that thing be sort of dead in the past and have a new life that isn't tied to those things anymore. Maybe.
Let me ask you this, both of you guys. We can have this conversation here. I think we'll be okay. Basically, I'm talking about Mage again. I'm going to go back for a second. So Mage, although I love the magic, I love like the whole idea behind it of this reality war. Mage, a lot of the groups in Mage, and there was some of this in Vampire, some of this in Werewolf, but like they're kind of like, these guys are from Asia and they do martial arts, these guys are from India and they are death mages. Like, so when you come across material like that and you're trying to revamp it, let's go ahead and assume you're trying to bring it to an audience, because that's what we're going to do. Yeah. How do you approach that? Like, and I'm asking Clinton Trucks too, because we've had some of these conversations, but they're ongoing.
Sure. Well, it's certainly reductive. But boy, I don't know. I feel it's in a larger scope. It's the Star Wars problem, right? Everything is all only one thing. It's right. It's whatever the most surface description of it is becomes its all-encompassing character, which removes all of the interest in humanity from these characters, which is the reason why you shouldn't do it.
I absolutely that. And for us as me and Sean and Fred and the Evil Hat people and publishing and making books and stuff, there's been kind of a catch-all like solution to this in a way, which is sensitivity readers and hiring people of diverse backgrounds who actually have lived the thing is like, it just instantly solves the problem. Like, we want to do this thing and like, I don't have the background and experience to write that part of the thing or the whole work itself maybe. So we should hire a background to write it. And then it just like, why am I even trying to do that in the first place? Why am I trying to encapsulate this culture that I'm an outsider to? And it doesn't mean you should never do it at all. Like, there are cases where you as an author need to, you don't, like me as an author, I don't want to write a world that's only white people, right? Like, I don't want my world that I want to be like, well, I'm a white guy, so I can only write that. Like, I don't want to do that. But that middle ground of like, I'm trying to write this thing I'm gonna get a sensitivity reader and an editor to come on board and like check me and tell me, you know, how it looks and how it sounds to them, and what the pain points are and the problematic shit that needs to get cut and all that. That's the middle ground. But the ultimate goal, I think, is to just like not assume that the only people who can make this stuff are people like me. Like,
right.
There's a huge, like, if you flip it around and think like, well, there are way more other people with different experiences than me who could make games, me. So like, that's a huge pool of talent that is still largely untapped. And like, there's so many opportunities for them to step into this space and make cool stuff. And it's almost just like kind of getting out of the way of that a little bit and letting them make their things that are speaking from their backgrounds and their experiences. And that's already started to happen with the sort of democratization of itch as a platform and those kind of spaces where creators can just do their work and put it out in front of people. But in the mainstream publishing space, it requires, you know, people like Fred Hicks, who I really admire, for being like, you know what, I'm not even going to make games personally anymore. I'm going to just publish other people's stuff, and I want as many people who are not me to come in and make games so I can publish them. And
there are so many great things out there now that are from diverse creators. And in fact, you know, you can go on Drive Through RPG and you can find entire books of adventures that kind of are dedicated to, you know, bringing in some diverse creators who have different things to say about, I mean, the whole genre of tabletop, or if your thing is D&D, the world, the D&D milieu. So, so please go and check those out and support those creators, because that's what it's going to be. That's what we're all moving toward, you know?
Yeah. We don't need Frank Herbert we don't need him to be the voice for the 5 Pillars of Islam, like as a sci-fi story, right?
Yeah.
Like, he clearly was passionate about that material and had a lot to say about it, but like, we are no longer in a space culturally where that white dude needs to be the voice of that story. Like, we've moved beyond that, I think. And yeah.
So thanks for bringing it back to Frank Herbert. So now that we've given our sort of PSA about Frank Herbert and his work and how we feel about it, like, there are so many interesting things in the Dune books that, you know, I mean, I really want to do a long campaign of this, because it's such a saga, and I think that there's so many like really kind of out there ideas that he brings in out of nowhere. Like, sometimes where you're like, what is, and you know, my favorite era of sci-fi and fantasy is that new wave era of guys in the 60s and 70s. As my brother would say, you know, they were smoking some weird drugs back then or whatever. and it made them kind of, you know, they were a little less, a lot of them were a little less on the world building side and more on like what feels right or what would be really crazy here. Frank Herbert is someone who I think the reason people love the Dune books so much is because you feel like you can go to Arrakis, like it's a real place. So he does all of that really complex and detailed world building, but then he also has that wild side where something happens and you're like, what? And the book is always a little bit ahead of you. All of them. Like, they're always like, he's always a little smarter than you. So you're always like playing catch up with his train of thought. And so a lot of the stuff makes your jaw drop because you're just like, what's happening now?
Yeah. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with the Star Trek Technical Manual, which is an amazing book. It's still in print. You can still get it.
Yeah.
This really obsessive engineer nerd like made like ship architectural plans for the Enterprise. Like, this is after it was canceled and before Star Trek was popular again. It was in this weird period, but you could like read a page about like how a phaser actually worked with the way that the memes worked. And in Dune, Frank Herbert has this amazing appendix / encyclopedia at the back of the book where he goes into all the ways that these politics work, why nukes were banned, and like all these. Is this deep, long encyclopedia. And as a kid, I was so into world building because I was into role playing. So I wanted like stuff to use, and the stories he was telling, I enjoyed reading. But at the end of the day, I was always just like, man, I just love that he's given us all this material to work with.
Yeah.
And we don't need the Dune stories exactly, if you know what I mean. And Star Wars is kind of like that too. Like we can all pick and choose our favorites and the things we hate in Star Wars and still be big Star Wars fans because the Star Wars universe is such a rich thing. It almost exists outside the scripts and the characters and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And Dune is one of those things that kind of stands apart from the books. It's a world.
I mean, it's continued with his son, but it's continued, with other authors now. So it really does. And
it's just bigger than him.
Yeah. I heard a one thing I like about, some people are like, I don't really want to game in a world that's already been established. And I think that was my attitude at some point in my life. I've had lots of attitudes, but I was listening one time to a podcast about fan fiction, and the woman who was advocating it, who had written, by the way, many erotic stories about, I think, Cyclops and Wolverine and things like that, kind of shipping the characters and stuff. She made some very good points, which the first point she made was this idea of like copyright is very recent if you look back at the history of stories. Yeah. And that suddenly one day in like really the early 20th century, we all said, and that belongs to this corporation and you can't use it.
Disney never wants Mickey to be in the public domain. That's like the motivation of copyright law. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing she said was, and it's changing all the time, but if you wanted to write gay fiction, gay adventure fiction, or if you wanted to write fiction about people that aren't necessarily trans people that aren't as represented, fan fiction was a place where a lot of that kind of blossomed and was accepted and was kind of proliferated and was popular. And so it was this thing that kind of like allowed people to kind of show different types of characters or different sides to characters we know. And those are two really cool things about fan fiction. And so, let's like I said, let's go somewhere different with this,
Yeah.
Make it like, and I think early on Clint and I were talking about this and I was kind of like, I was wrong. Cause I was like, I think if we do it, it has to be on Arrakis and it has to be in the sand and all that stuff. And you have to have a sandworm. But I think I was wrong because that's what I should be saying if I'm making the movie. Well, I'm wrong. I'm often wrong. Believe it or not, I'm often wrong. So if we were making the movie, maybe we would say that because we need people to come and see it and pay money. But I think if you're playing the role playing game, fucking go and beat up Shaddam 4, the Emperor.
Yeah.
On a different planet or do whatever the hell you want. That's what's cool about the role-playing game.
Well, I think too that where I heard you going with what you were saying, calling back to the early, the rich queerness of early fanfic, especially. I mean, as a uncertain baby queer person back in the day, like the original slash fiction, like Kirk Spock, like the origination of slash fiction was like this like weird titillating thing. I didn't know why I liked it so much. It was like hard to understand. Because I was obsessed with Star Trek, so obviously that's what was cool about it, right? But going to Dune, like if you just take Herbert out of the equation, like it is rife. It's a perfect ground for the like as queering a move as you would want to make. Every single character is like the most ship-worthy pairing you could ever ask for. In the same way where like certain very serious Greek academics will just sort of refuse to acknowledge kind of what was going on in those stories.
Achilles and Patroclus were just friends.
They're just friends, right? Yeah, like there's way too much of that. And if you look at Dune, it just looks the same to me. Like, well, yeah, like there's just so many obvious great.
Oh my God, are you kidding? They're all superlative in a very broken way. What? Yeah. What's sexier than that? Exactly. You know, they're all the perfect something, but it's cost them everything. Like that a doomed artist like that. Oh, I mean, I want to kiss them.
Good.
I want to kiss them and I want to love them.
There's kissing. There's so many smooches across all the Dune characters. And why not? Why not? Again, like, don't let Frank Herbert control you. You know, you get to do what you want to do, and it's my partner and I are rewatching the original series Star Trek right now, and it's one of those. It's an amazing experience. You should do it periodically. I recommend it, especially if you're a huge fan, because you get to remember, oh right, this is actually a mid-60s show and has a lot of really fucked up stuff in it that I don't approve of. But also, wow, I can't believe they got away with that on a television show in America. Like it's great.
My dad was in town last week. We watched Picard, and then we were like, well, we have to turn on original series because that's what we always used to watch. Mm-hmm. And original series is so beautiful. They are pushing so
out of this world.
The color, but they're pushing into the future while also kind of, you know, I mean, I used to do a bit of that in my stand-up that no one liked, but it was just basically like all races and nationalities are welcome aboard this starship. Uhura, you're gonna work the phones. Like it's, you know, it's just kind of, you know, it's trying, but it's not. Like,
you have to cast your mind back to the person who's very angry that there's a black woman on her TV screen. And the fact that
you're writing letters longhand because there's no internet.
That show, like putting her on the bridge, is making so many people angry, and you have to remember that. Like they really had to fight for so much of what they did, but they have an episode where like, well, man's got to have a lady. You know, these space miners can't live out here by themselves. So we got to bring them women.
Right.
So many episodes of the original series. Many episodes of the original series hinge on that. It's like
we need a sexy lady. Basically, that's the solution to the problem.
Hey, I'm a man. If a sexy lady's around, I can't be responsible. And you're like, I thought this was the future.
I don't.
That's tragically despicable. But you know, it's done in this sort of peppy '60s way. So you're kind of like, what am I watching?
But also like. At first blush, you're like, well, this makes no sense. It's the 23rd century. Get your shit together. But then you also look at the like trajectory of America and you're like, well, maybe I get it. Like maybe we did just completely go back.
Maybe Trump and Biden shook hands and the Enterprise launched.
It could happen. It could happen. It's like Handmaid's Tale. You know, it's like crosses over and there's a.
Well, you know, according to the official Star Trek history, John, they do have a post-apocalyptic period, right? Like
that's true.
So some of those barbarians, they got into space too, you know.
Cons people take over the Earth.
Yeah,
and like
totally. There's some toxic masculinity in the 23rd century. Well, that was all of our announcements. I think we have to take some questions. So can we hang out and ask some questions? Take some questions.
Sure thing.
So comments.
I briefly fell off the stream when you guys began to badmouth H.P. Lovecraft, which I will not hear. But when I did, the collection of questions that the amazing Jill Petracek was keeping in our private chat disappeared. So I'm going to bring in Jill, and she's going to give us a bunch of questions from our collected questions from.
Oh, I see some of them. I see someone. here. So
Jill is nervous. Jill, do you want me to kick you back out?
That sounds like Jared could do my job. So I can go. That's okay.
I can't do your job. You're making us all look better. But I will say I see a couple things that you've thrown up here. Should I throw them out there? Should I speak them? Should I speak their name? Speaking of Conan, when do we get some Conan, Jared, from Thursday? Thursday, we recorded a Conan game, the Modifius Conan game, and I'll be honest, we've been selfishly holding it in our back pocket if we suddenly found ourselves having to take some kind of break from streaming and needed some content to throw out there. So we have it, and you'll see it. My dream is to do a big, long Conan series. Speaking of stuff we could get into, the problematic nature of. I mean,
yeah,
Conan,
well, I mean, if you want to talk about, as my friend Avery says, queer every binary. If you want to get in there with Conan, please go ahead.
Conan's ready for it.
There's your rich, fertile ground.
Conan has wet muscles. That's all you need to know, everybody. They're always wet for some reason. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, you will see it Thursday. I promise. One day. Okay. Elisa says, "Is Jared going to play as a player in the upcoming SoB season?" I should. I am a terrible player. I am a Leroy Jenkins player. I only like for stuff to happen. And when people start talking about the best strategy, I'm like, why are we doing this? Attack!
Are you... Don't, Tim. You're describing my favorite type of player.
Mine too.
We should talk.
That's the best player. Sorry, guys. Yeah, the rest of you are lovely, and we love you, all you other players. But well, Clint's the opposite of that. Clint thinks that if he makes 17 decisions before the encounter happens, the encounter will not even happen.
Well,
all the opponents will go, "I apologize for being in opposition to you," and he will waltz through, and then Princess Leia will put a medal on him.
I play the way I would want to live. If I had my own character sheet, I would play the numbers.
Role playing.
Yeah. I play the way I want to live, heavily armored. Look, there's no wrong way to play. There's just a best way to play, and that's the way I play.
Come to the server of Blood. Jared will tell you the best way to play.
I have opinions, and I share them on the server. So if you're loving all of the very declarative statements I'm making, hit us up there.
I wrote a book about it, so go and read it. It'll say all the stuff Jared does.
Wait! What's your book? You have a book about this?
Yeah.
You ever heard of it?
Wait, do you mean Blades in the Dark?
Yeah, I mean Blades in the Dark.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Thank you for letting that just lie there.
As a comedian, I sometimes think only I tell jokes. So that's good. Yes, Blades in the Dark. I mean, read it, and if you understand it, you know that John loves a Leroy Jenkins. Okay. Where it's kind of the game where everybody has to be a Leroy Jenkins, whether they want to or not. Okay. I really liked it when I was part of the conversation with that one VOP episode.
Oh, that was me. That was me throwing it at you privately. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, I'm just saying Jill's private messages to me. Jared, I quit. How dare you say that live? And I can't believe you've done that. You'll hear from my lawyer. Okay, what do you guys think about that one? All right. So Miss MYK says, will you ever try playing any of the campaign promises game ideas? Maybe, but you know what we should do right now is play campaign promises.
Oh,
with John Harper.
Well, we should explain to everybody what campaign promises is while I try and think of what mine will be.
Campaign Promises was our short-lived show on the Stereo app. For a little while, there was this app that would pay you just to have a show. And so we sucked money from it while we got on and talked for an hour about role-playing games. And thank you, SOBs, for
it had its fans. Someone in the chat has been shouting our catchphrase, hashtag eat booty. And John, the reason that was our catchphrase is because you could take comments, you could take voicemails, like kind of call-ins on this like app. And the very first person that called in to us was a little boy who went, eat booty. And then like
Well, first of all, he told me I looked like fucking Donald Trump, and then he
God.
said, "Eat booty and hung up." So, eat booty, everybody. We should play
What
the
a
game.
legend! I mean, eat booty guy. Good. Well done. Well done.
In the first 5 minutes of our first show, and he lived forever.
Yes. So look, Campaign Promises was this little thing we did on that show where we would pitch hey, Clint, I want to play such and such type of game. Like, I want to play a game based on, I think one time I was like Super Mario Brothers, I said to Clint. And then Clint has to either give me a game that already exists that would be perfect for it, or the way he would run it, like what kind of rules he would put in it, or some combination thereof, and tell me how he would do that. And so
Nice.
I think we should play it tonight. What do you think, Clint? That'd be a good way to close us out here. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm into it.
Okay.
We've never done this with a game designer who can
yeah, well, what a great opportunity is my point.
You're gonna test my encyclopedic knowledge of games.
Well, keep in mind, you don't have to go. Well, Artel Saurian, you don't have to do that. Like, that's often sometimes what we do, but sometimes we'd have to go.
Sure.
You know what? I can't think of a game that was like that, but I would probably make these kind of rules, paramount.
Okay.
There is one rule to Campaign Promises. No GURPS.
No GURPS. You can't use GURPS because GURPS can do
that's
everything.
Fair rule. I would amend it. I think I must, in order to not disqualify myself, I would say no fate, perhaps also.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Although people should play Fate. They should really
definitely play Fate. It's
really
awesome.
Cool. Yeah. And has one of the best written core books that I've read in all of my role-playing game
absolutely reading. Does. It is beautifully written. If you're watching this and you don't play role-playing games for some reason, I don't know why you would be that person, but if you go and buy Fate and read it, that will be a very good first thing to do.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's like a good first role-playing game.
Yeah.
All right, so I will pitch a type of game I want to play. Well, actually, you guys can. Clint, since you seem nervous, do you want to hit us up first? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of games that can do this, but I want to play a game of hard scientific survival a la The Martian.
Okay.
Ooh,
that's
good.
Great.
That's good. Yeah, I like that.
That's great. Damn. I mean, I want to create some kind of game where you actually have to know shit. Like, you actually have to get out books.
Sure.
Interesting.
And be like, actually, this is how chlorophyll works.
It's like an immersive experience. Yeah,
like a totally immersive experience. The way skill rolls work, it's almost I'm just talking. It's almost in opposition to The Martian, because The Martian is really, when you get into the meat of the book, the fun part of the book, it's like him going like, okay, so I've lost pressure in my habitat. How do I get pressure back? Here are the very specific and real ways that I would do that. Yeah. And that's the meat of it. But skill rolls in most games just sort of they skip that. They go, well, I know sciencey, and then the thing is fixed.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you would create a game where you actually have to have. It sounds actually like a bummer where you'd actually have to have reference material.
It could potentially be a game where you play 15 seconds of fiction over the course of 4 hours. But it's immersive, so that gets points.
I've heard of D&D groups that are made up all of engineers who will do things like, they're trying to escape a sea monster. They're in a sailing ship and they calculate how much force the fireball would have leaving in their hands and how fast the serpent's going. So that is a way that people play games, which I don't think I'd ever want to play in that game, not just because I couldn't hang, because it sounds dreadfully boring.
Yeah.
But I think I would like to make a documentary about those people.
They invented the D&D weapon of mass destruction back in the 70s, which is a bag of holding at the end of a ballista bolt and a portable hole about 6 inches away. And when it lands, the portable hole compresses into the bag of holding, which, according to the rules, creates this like Titanic nuclear bomb style explosion. And so they created these like D&D nukes by combining 2 different magic rules together.
I don't know that a ballista bolt flies far enough away for me to be comfortable.
No, it's really not. It's bad.
Yeah.
Well, now, unfortunately, the way the game works is we now have to actually answer Clint's request. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah,
there is a game. The first game that comes to mind is a beautiful game called Blue Planet, made by Jeff Barber, a local Seattle guy here. The person who gave me my first job in gaming, back in the early 90s. He has this really cool game, Blue Planet. It's he is a medic. He was an EMT and a biologist, and it's humans. It's the first planet humans colonize outside of Earth is a planet called Poseidon, which is sort of a water world. And you play if you decide what era, but you can play like the very first people who get there, or you can play centuries later people who live on the planet who are born there. But it takes its ecological science and its physical sciences extremely seriously. And one of its coolest mechanics, this is not quite the science you're talking about, Clint, but because Jeff was a EMT, the cascade of failures in the medic system is really something. Like when you do first aid, you like assess a patient and you're like, oh, they're not breathing. Okay, now what do I do now? Like I have to make this decision. Do I intubate them? Okay, I did that. Now they're still not breathing. Okay, shit. Now what do I do? And you follow this like flow chart of systems to try to like get them back. And you could definitely adapt some of that stuff.
Absolutely.
And there's some other science stuff in the game, which is really cool. But you could definitely adapt that stuff into agriculture and other things you got to address. So if you're into hard science, Blue Planet is definitely. There aren't a lot of hard science RPGs, and Blue Planet is.
There are not
for sure. Well, if you liked, who wrote Kim Robinson?
Kim Stanley Robinson,
Red Mars, and those books. Like, if you're into those, like, definitely check out Blue Planet. It's fantastic.
That's an incredible answer. Mine is going to be a little dumber, which is I am in favor of a Delta Green style sheet where there's like, very granular skills, and you have to tell me how you're going to use astrophysics to solve the problem, and then we'll just roll and 50% or lower, whatever your score is. But yes, I that's my dumb answer. The Blue Planet answer is way better. But I think we did it. I think we're gonna play The Martian. We're gonna play like really realistic hard science. We did it.
Maybe you can just adapt it to Blue Planet to Red Planet. It might work.
I think so. I mean, that makes sense. And what you're pitching is kind of what I pictured because it feels flowcharty to me. It's the way.
But yeah.
Can we call the game Cascade of Failures though? Because that's the part that gets me excited as a GM. Okay. All right, great. I think John should go. John, you should. What type of game do you want to play?
I want to play a not too realistic and not too cheesy. So I'm aiming. This is a hard target here. Jason Bourne intrigue action. Adventure story.
Okay.
That is not like way too real and a huge bummer because it's like the real world and all that shit is terrible, and also not so stupid that we don't care. Like somehow hitting this middle ground where just in the way that the Bourne movies are fun if you don't think about them too much.
That sounds really fun. Clinton Trucks and I have actually, it's so hilarious. Not on any show, but we've had this discussion before. How do you create that game? Because I mean, I'm a fan of the podcast. Was it True Spies?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you create that kind of world, but like not grounded too much to where you're not getting that kind of thrill
Like,
of the fantasy of the spy.
Not the Americans, which I love. I think the Americans is fantastic, but not that.
Yeah.
It's still pulpy, kind of.
Yeah.
But
Clint,
not.
Do you have any
Indiana
thoughts?
Jones. That's too far.
Well, you know, we when we were talking about it, we looked at almost every spy RPG that was out there, and there are a handful. But if we're looking for something that is makes you feel like a super spy without being too serious, so we wouldn't be looking at something like Cold Shadows. I'm a fan of the Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy kind of espionage where it
sure.
It's tradecraft, right? But if you also want to be able to,
that is what Kenneth Haidt calls So Kenneth Haidt in Night's Black Agents has all these game frames, and one of them he calls it the Dust campaign, and he literally means that it's like dusty real. It's like it's like Tinker Tailor. It's like you have like a little desk. It's also kind of like the Ipcris file, if anybody's seen it, cinema buffs, where it's like really about the real job of spying. So.
Well, 3 Days of the Condor.
Yes.
Is definitely that thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, Jared stepped on my answer, which was going to be Night's Black Agents. Which
really? That's a great answer.
That's totally fair. That's totally fair. Yeah.
I think Night's Black Agents, a game in which you play, operators, humans fighting a vampire conspiracy. But as a result, it ends up being pretty pulpy espionage, right? So I think if all you need to do is scrub out the vampires, and just all of the spy mechanics are really solid in that game, I think. And you do not need to play with the dust lens necessarily, because this is a game that wants you to be Jason Bourne versus Dracula.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah, I like that game.
It's a cool game, and it has all kinds of lenses you can put. I liked it when people started doing that. Instead of just being like, "This is the world," it has to be like this. They started going, this is a toolkit, and it could be really realistic, or it could be kind of wild. That kind of stuff doesn't come into, I feel like, the 2000s or something. People start kind of pitching their games that way with that kind of toolbox feel. And really, I'm just buying time because I have no idea what my answer is. I'm literally looking at the D20 Spycraft right now.
We played Spycraft for 2 years, and we had so much fun with it.
Yeah.
I don't think it hits that. My request is really very nitpicky and weird. You know what I mean? I'm asking for this really sweet spot answer, which is.
I know what I like. I know what I like for this. I don't know if it's doing exactly what you want, but there are two games, and they have a kind of a Cthulhu thread to them. You could take that out, and the mechanics aren't affected by that as much. One is called Hot War, and the first one is called, I think, Cold City. Is that right?
Yes, a new edition is coming out using the Blades in the Dark mechanics. Actually,
beautiful.
So
these are really great games, and the only thing I'll throw out about them is that they have this sort of loyalty mechanic, where your connections to the other characters in your party are very important. Your trust with those characters and things like that. And I think you also have
loyalty to your agency and your country, which is all conflicting with those other. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I hope I'm not just name dropping another spy RPG that I find cool. I hope that because this game does contain, I'll be honest, I haven't played it. I've just read through them, but the fact that they do contain these outre elements means to me that it should be fairly easy to port in some sort of some outre elements that are not cosmic horror, that are just spy weirdness. sonic weapons that are making people sick in Cuba and other stuff that's really happened. But like, to me, I think what they get at that's right is that the real thing about a spy story, all action set pieces aside, is that it's about trust and paranoia. And so they get at that. And that's what's cool about those games. So
I like that. That sounds really good.
That. All right.
Now, listening to your answers, it makes me think about an Undying hack, maybe, I think, possibly. Because, like, now I'm thinking, like, yeah, maybe that
I can see that.
Because
a spy has 5 exciting days in his life, and everything else is just at a desk, right?
Exactly, yeah. You have these, like, tense moments in Paris in 1975 that determines everything, and you got to push your chips in, and maybe there's an Undying hack that we haven't seen. Paul wrote an Undying hack for Game of Thrones called All Men Must Die, which covers that kind of genre. But a spy hack might maybe I need to write that. That could be good.
That's the Game of Thrones RPG I would play, is the one where it's called All Men Must Die, and it has those kind of mechanics. Because
you should check it out. It's on drive-thru. I think it's good stuff. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read that.
Picture really kind of amazing. Another amazing espionage podcast that I just discovered.
Please.
It's called My Dad the Spy. But it's by Stuart Copeland, the drummer from The Police, whose dad was a CIA agent trying to start a coup in Syria. It's amazing.
Is he an American, Stuart Copeland?
Yeah, he's American.
I didn't know that. Wow. Yeah. Okay, I definitely have to listen to that. That's awesome.
I am going to give my taste. I'm going to give my campaign promises pitch, and then maybe we'll take another. I see some more questions have materialized, and then we got to get out of here, guys. We've been here almost 2 hours. Mine is
Jared. I'm up for whatever.
Well, you're the host, John. So as long as you're here, I can keep going. So my thing is, I would like to play a game that is kitchen sink family drama. I'm talking Terms of Endearment. I'm talking Ordinary People. I'm talking Long Day's Journey into Night.
Yes. Steel Magnolias, maybe?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Steel Magnolias. You know what? How about the Joy Luck Club? This is what I would like to play.
This
Tell
is
me how I can do it.
5. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Oof, Jared. Oof.
Look, I have an immediate answer, which is the wrong answer, but I love it. So maybe I should let Clint go because
You're gonna adapt Dungeons and Dragons 5e to this, aren't you?
I feel like I'm gonna derail us too much, and I think Clint might have an actual answer. So I'm. Yeah.
My immediate answer is one I've used previously in campaign promises, but there are a finite number of role-playing games I think I'm allowed.
I'll be the judge of that, Clinton Trucks. Go ahead and say it, and then if I'm like that's bullshit, I'll tell you.
I'm gonna. You watch. I'm gonna fucking slide this thing into the parking spot so smooth. You're not gonna know what happened. The important thing in these sort of the films you mentioned, the stories you mentioned, since the Joy Luck Club is also a book, are that these relationships are based on intimacy and the intimate knowledge that people have with one another. The reason people feel so strongly, the reason people can hurt each other as badly as they do, is because they know each other inside and out, because a piece of them exists in all of the other characters, and a loss of one of those characters is a loss of themselves. In much the same way that the Princes of Amber, through their years of living as immortals in a primal plane,
you're gonna pitch Amber Diceless again.
You know it, baby.
You're gonna take like whatever the battle skill and make it like shame or something like that.
It's warfare, actually.
Warfare. Thank you.
But I love this answer. Oh my god, it's amazing and hilarious because that is what Amber is. Amber is a family drama, top to bottom. And disguised as an adventure game.
You bet. The entire mechanic is everybody knows the other person so well. Most contests don't need to happen. because why bother? I already know I can't beat Chelsea at hairstyling or whatever my Steel Magnolias reference that I did not quite attain in that sentence was.
Yeah.
Great answer.
Amazing. That's a great answer. Yeah.
It's a great answer. And when the game is the appropriate game, it's just the appropriate game. For a minute, I thought you were going to say, because there's like a piece of each character in the other characters, I thought you were going to say Wraith the Oblivion, which has that shadow thing where you play someone else's dark side, which
I do love that.
I don't know if it's, I love the idea. I've never seen it kind of pulled off. Well, actually, I haven't watched a lot of streams of it, so I don't know what's out there, guys. But I mean, like in live, I haven't seen it pulled off quite like how it's described in the book.
I had a really successful game group that we weren't playing Wraith, we were playing Sorcerer, which is Ron Edwards about sorcerers who all their power is derived from demons that they bring into the world. And so we played a game where you played the demon of the sorcerer on your left and around the table like that. So you played your sorcerer and you played someone else's demon. And it wasn't quite the same as Wraith, but we had a really, really good time with it. And again, back to that character duality thing where you got to just jump back and forth between this like protagonist trying to do their thing and then just this like evil little goblin that was just getting at the other person and undermining them, and that was really fun. Not a family drama, I wouldn't call it, but it was definitely a fun dynamic. But the game I was thinking of is a new game that was kickstarted last year, I believe, coming to fulfillment now. I think I maybe got the preview PDFs recently. It's called Jiangxi, Blood in the Banquet Hall.
Yes.
About a family who runs a Chinese restaurant who also fights vampires in their spare time. And you play two modes of the game. You play Hong Kong action movie and you fight vampires, and then you play Hong Kong family drama
running television
show where you join up for a shift at work and stuff. And it's so good. It's just like twist all the dials of drama between characters that are having this real situation about the dishwashing of the restaurant, and then also like you need to kill these vampires. It's really cool. Great game, and I think it's going to be available as a public thing outside the Kickstarter. So Jiangxi, Jiangshi is the title. Jiangxi, Blood in the Banquet Hall. Really cool.
What a great answer, because I was also about to say, like, once you guys gave your pitches, I was gonna say, I think that would be the ultimate like start to a campaign, as it starts as like a game about a family with like family problems, and then like in episode 3 or 4, session 3 or 4, suddenly they're fighting vampires or something like that. Mm-hmm. I think that could be like, what a great campaign that would be, even if it only lasted 6 full episodes or something like that. Yeah. Like, you would have established all of those really rich relationships. And so it sounds like that game just does that. They thought of it. That's what they're doing.
It's designed to be like a 6-episode miniseries where you get into that and do that work. And it's designed by Asian American immigrants for the most part, and like their experiences growing up, and their family dynamics, and also the legends of these Chinese hopping vampires, and it also really understands the kind of like Hong Kong cinema understanding that some people have of seeing these kind of things in movies, and so they lean into that, and you get to have that kind of like Chinese ghost story and like that kind of fun stuff. But really, it's about your mom and your dad and your sister and your brother, and how all that stuff comes together. It's super good. But I also need to mention Emily Care Boss, one of the greatest game designers of all time, she has some games that touch on these kind of relationship dynamics in a really cool and powerful way. She has a game called Breaking the Ice and another game called Shooting the Moon, which are not what you want, Clint. It's not the family drama that you want. But if hacks are allowed, if we're allowed to like imagine,
of course. No, that's what it's about. Is the hacks.
Breaking the Ice is about a couple going on their first date. It's a 2-player game without a GM, and it's amazing. It'll change the way you think about role playing. But Shooting the Moon is the Philadelphia story, the RPG.
Oh my God.
You know what that's all I need to say, basically. Yeah. But you can imagine how that dynamic of relationship stuff realized in an RPG, that is fruitful ground for family stuff. If you wanted to go to those places, it's just conflicted. Like every dynamic is at least 3 points of view, right? You're just always caught in that triumvirate of characters. And yeah, Shooting the Moon it's so amazing. We played it at Gen Con when it came out, and at the booth, the demos booth, and every demo Emily would be like, okay, so who are you? And we're like, we're Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, and like, let's go. Or whatever. You could just pick like these iconic things and just play this like twisted 3-way romance in the best way. And
I think I've talked to Emily a little bit on Twitter,
cool,
and
yeah.
She was also a huge fan of the show Timeless, like I was. But
yes,
Emily's stuff is really cool, and I've read it, and it's so cool. She's like the stuff that she comes up with.
I watched
Timeless, but I'm going to read all this now.
Yeah, she's one of the great masters. She coined the term fictional positioning, which is the thing in RPGs that we talk about a lot.
Yeah,
she is a genius, a master game designer, and yeah, check out like all her romance trilogy games are great. Under the Skin is her third game in that trilogy, but Shooting the Moon is so cool. It takes gaming into a space that it almost never lives in, which is just pure character relationship drama. That's like all it does. There's nothing else. And if you're excited about that as a gamer and you want to have either the intense smooches or the intense relationship, whatever it happens to be, play Shooting the Moon. It will change your whole idea of gaming.
Yeah, I mean, guys, like check these games out because, you know, what I find really fun in role playing, you know, we all like to have a cool laser potion that turns your enemies into smoke, and we like to talk about how our armor is and how our ponytail looks when our orc swings his head. But I would argue that the most fun points in role-playing games are when you feel something that feels like a real memory or a real feeling, because you're kind of really in it, and you're kind of exposing yourself a little bit. And you can see our good buddy Ashley Birch do that, and our friend Ross Bryant and Abu and all of the people that we really love to play on this channel do that occasionally. And that's why I love to play with them, because they kind of make themselves vulnerable. And on one hand, you could call it acting, and it's definitely something you use in acting, but it's also just something all of us can do with a role-playing game if we are brave enough to go there. And her games kind of go, well, we're going straight there. So Here we go, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, role-playing games are the fiction where you get to surprise yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can be so low stakes if you're not streaming to thousands of viewers. If you're just playing alone in your basement with your friends and the people you really trust, like there's all kinds of safety tools you need to talk about there. But assuming all of that is in place and it's just you and your two friends doing a thing, the way that you can express yourself artistically is so amazing that the stakes are so low. No one is going to think
Right.
Again, assuming all the safety stuff is in place.
Yes.
No one's going to think you're stupid. No one's going to think your idea is bad. No one is going to make fun of you. And there's so few artistic forms where that's true. Almost every artistic form, you have to like risk so much of yourself and your people making fun of you or whatever it is. You have to put it out there. You've got to, it's so public. It's so much. But gaming can be this really private thing that you do with your friends. No one else ever has to know anything about it.
Yeah.
And so you can just be that person that you want to be. You can say the thing that you're thinking. You can express yourself in the way you want to express yourself with no risk or very, very low risk. And
try out a person that you think you might want to be and discover that that's not what you
oh
want.
my God.
Right?
Yeah. That story happens over and over and over again in the broader gaming community about people who wanted to be someone else and used role playing as a way to like get there.
You bet.
In a safe way. It's so cool. It makes me so happy, and it's like nothing else. There's no other hobby.
Nothing like it. I 100% agree.
Like
yeah, and absolutely on all your points, John. And I'd say you can also tell silly stories with Emily's games, but still you're creating these memories that feel, when you really come to love a character in a novel or a film but this is you. And so it almost imprints on you even more. And so, I just recommend it because she gets to the core of what the games are often, and when I like them, what they're really about.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, very quickly, I just don't want to leave these viewers without their questions answered. Feral Cat says, can we see some more Borg on Taste of Blood? Maybe on Thaco Tuesdays when we bring that back and we're doing old school RP dungeon crawl RPGs. Morkborg is a beautiful book that I want to own.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
First of all, you should definitely get this book. It's really good. Yeah. I will tell you, shine a flashlight on it and turn the lights out, and then you'll find some fun secrets.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and say Morkborg backwards 5 times into the mirror.
Definitely do that.
Yeah.
My question, though, Jared, is would you be willing to play Morkborg by the rules, which includes destroying the book? Under certain circumstances, the game calls for you to destroy the book.
Yeah, I would. I think that's real cool, and I would definitely do that.
Kind of incredible. Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah. There should be more shit like that. Clint and I were trying to figure out for a while a role-playing game where like the rules call for you to bring certain stuff to the game. Like if you brought like a certain snack, you get like bonuses.
Sure.
But I like destroying shit even more.
Epidiah Ravishal, an incredible game designer who happens to be Emily Boss's partner in real life, has a game where your character has an eidolon. that's what it's called.
Yeah.
It's a physical object that you bring to the game, and you say like, "This is what I'm about." So you like bring a Zippo, or you bring a muffin, or like whatever it is.
Sure.
You have a physical object. Like, yeah, I'm gonna describe my character to you.
But you also have this totem.
But you have this totem that lets everyone kind of like think about your character in this other way, this like meta way, and yeah. So yeah,
that's great. I mean,
it's super good. Yeah,
more stuff like that. I love that kind of stuff. Okay, more Lone Wolf. My wife and I love that series. Grawl asks, yes. None of the that's what Taste of Blood is for. To kind of move in the things we have been doing, and then occasionally move in something we haven't done before. So we wanted to try a couple new things, but then we will be back with some more Lone Wolf, and we will get through a Fire on the Water. Lone Wolf is a part of my soul. We will not abandon Lone Wolf.
We're right at the end. We're almost done with that book.
Well, we'll see. I mean, maybe we'll just start over. How about that? I'm Divicious Baby asks, yeah, about the Magi. What level of ability can they work their wills? I'm not sure if I understand the question. What level of ability? Well, they can change reality by thinking about it. So that seems pretty at a high level to me. I don't know.
Yeah. Are they like novices in the world of Mage, and they don't really get the whole deal, or are they kind of like seasoned veterans that are?
And I have a great answer for this, because I also am stealing the fact that Vampire, when you use a discipline, they have you use some skill that you have, like, or some attribute like charisma, and then add it to the discipline like presence, and that's your dice pool. Old Mage had you roll this arete pool that was like, you had like 1 die or 2 die or 3 die when you're a beginning character. Mm-hmm. I was like, that's not super fun, because every time I played it, all anybody tried to do was roll magic. And then because they had 3 dies, they just kind of failed a lot. So
everybody was bad at it. Yeah.
I think that we're going to try this, guys. I hope it works. We're going to adapt the vampire thing of disciplines. You're going to add your attribute to a sphere that you have, matter, mind, time, whatever. And that's going to be your dice pool instead. And so that's the level at which they're working their will. And then arete doesn't go away. It becomes like blood potency and vampire, meaning, if you've got like a 2 or 3, when you spend a willpower to help your spell, it helps it a lot more, right? Just like in vampire. So basically I just ripped off the vampire system. So that's the answer to that. And I'm glad you brought that up, Divicious. Okay, last question, guys. What's Jill's GM style like? I don't know. It's efficient and makes everything run better, though. The new original, which side of the bed does Jared sleep on? I have to think about this. Why do you care? The right side of the bed is the side that I sleep on, and my wife sleeps on the left side.
That's some sort of component for ritual magic. I don't think you should have said that.
Yeah.
And my true name is Levitheth. Okay, so now you can bind me and command me. I think we've come to the end of it. I told my wife this would be an hour and a half, and it's been 2 hours and 9 minutes. But man, we had so much fun. Thank you so much for popping in, John. That was really, really, really fun.
I had so much fun, and any night I get to literally like run down a sidewalk to be on a stream is a good night. And also, you're neglecting your child, you monster.
No. She likes to take care of him. I must run and go do that. But we'll be back with some more games very soon, guys. What's our next one is Sunday. Right? Vampire on Sunday. I don't know. There's a whole schedule on the Discord. Please subscribe. Please join the Discord. Please follow John on all the social medias and tell him how much you enjoy his work. And buy all the games we talked about tonight, because they really are worth your time, and you should play them. Get your friends together and play them. Clinton, anything you'd add?
Yeah. If you haven't yet, get vaccinated.
Okay. Yeah. And look both ways before crossing the street, everybody. I am so... we did it. 2 of these. You're right. Yeah. I got whiskey drunk. I love Nicely you all. Done. Thank you, guys. Thank you, viewers, so much. Thank you, John. And thank you, Clinton Trucks. You are the wind beneath my wings. We're going to say goodbye, and we'll be back soon. Bye-bye, everybody. Forever.